Welcome to Peace, the Pulse of Humanity World Conference 2020. And today I have with me Joy Leng, all the way from Malaysia. I'm so excited, and I have to tell you, I love technology. I love technology. Pulse, if you recall, stands for passion, unity, love, sustainability, and empathy. And Joy's subject for today is going to be so in line with supporting all of us with having some inner peace. So let me read you her bio so that I don't miss anything out, and we'll get started. Joy is a positive hypnotherapist empowering people to celebrate strengths based on whole brain living using positive psychology and psychotherapeutic tools. She is fondly known as the superpower activator for her particular passion in activating character and prevalent strength through strengths development. As the founder of She Network, she continues to empower women in using their strengths to achieve happiness for themselves and for their communities. She uses the She pathway and the Joy method to help women to smash their limiting stories and to anchor in self-compassion and strengths-based identity. She's also the producer of Strengths and Joy podcast and the author of From Zero to Shakti, a woman's path to self-healing and empowerment. She's the founder of the 4-Hour Children Initiative that aims to uplift humanity through education, one child in developing countries at a time. As her tagline sums it beautifully, in strengths, we activate joy. Welcome, Joy, to the Peace Summit.
Thank you, Mimi, for the invitation. I'm really privileged to be here.
You're welcome. I know that in reading some things about what you do, you have these 6 pillars in the She pathway. So how do the 6 pillars in the She pathway support people having inner peace?
So the She pathway is designed to be a useful framework for self-healing and empowerment. And it is based on the research and the techniques from positive psychology and psychotherapy. So to me, the journey to achieving peace for humanity as a whole really begins with ourselves. To have peace with yourself and with the world at large is really the first step to peace for all. So being the change and the She pathway is a powerful guide to help you to create your own pathway to self-healing and empowerment.
That's awesome. And so what can you tell us about the 6 pillars?
Okay, so before I share about the 6 pillars, I need to clarify because it says She pathway. So in case the male audience are like, oh, that's not meant for me, it's called a She pathway. So let me explain why it's called a She pathway first. So
yes, please.
So since I'm a woman empowerment coach and the founder of She Network, so much of my focus is on empowering women. And also because I come from a generation where I watched my grandmother as a young child call the shots. And then moving up to the next generation, I watched my mom and my aunties make all the major decisions in the household. So I always felt that it was in my destiny, from 3 generations of women empowered family to really work on the empowering women in the world. So because of much of my focus in my work is empowering women, so that is the only reason why it's called the She pathway. It is actually gender neutral, and it's a peace enhancing tool that can be applied by any conscious human willing to do the inner work. So it is not really just meant for she. It can also be called a he pathway. It's the same.
Awesome.
Okay, so now let me share the broad overview about what are the 6 pillars in the She pathway and how it can support inner peace, which by extension supports world peace. So the She pathway is based on the alphabets S, H, E. And the 6 pillars in the She pathway are surrender, strength, help, hope, elevate, and execute. So the first pillar is S, which represents surrender. And surrender is about our awareness that the need for us to be aware of the limiting stories that we are holding on to and that we are acting out in real life. And these stories usually come in the form of like disempowering beliefs that you have about yourself, about the world, or about other people. Some of these disempowering beliefs can be so deeply ingrained that it is tied down to our identity. So in my autobiography From Zero to Shakti, I revealed how I took committed and massive action to smash a 30 years limiting story that I had, that I was unworthy and unlovable. Just to give a little background, how this story uh, took seed. When I was young, my mom was going to remarry, and there was my younger sister and me. And you know, being an Asian woman, especially in those olden days, it is really not cool. We are not boys. You know, we are girls. We're considered, you know, not we're not as, I guess, uh, uh, you know, for the Asian culture, it's all about boys, about men, and all that. So so it was really unthinkable for a woman to remarry, and on top of it, lugging two little girls along with her. So my mom decided that she was going to give me up because I was the older one. But the thing is, the adults did not explain to me what was going on, and my grandmother intervened and persuaded my mom, and so in the end she agreed to give me to her sister. So my auntie became my mom. And but I was unaware. I knew that something was wrong. I could feel it, but nobody told me what was going on. So I was happy, but I was confused. So at some point, my little brain started to join the dots, and I call it like the day my world went black. That was kind of the day I decided to stop talking in many ways. So so because I didn't understand what was going on and I was young, and as children they always take the blame, they always assume that the one at fault here is themselves. So in order to understand and comprehend what was going on, and also I was so shocked that I kind of stopped talking, I decided in my head that, oh, it must be because I'm so unworthy and unlovable that mommy gave me up. And this story took seed, and it really took seed for the next 30 years. I was just living out. I was always motivated by this story. So before I took action to smash this 30 years old story, that story was my identity for all of my teenage and adult years. So I really come from a place of like being through it myself. Like the first pillar is really surrendering. For 30 years, I have no idea that that was my belief system until I took up a life coaching a certification where you are asked all these questions, and then the skeletons in the closet just came out. I was like, oh my God, I need to do the work on myself first before I can think about empowering women. So at that point, it was like either I changed my mind. I'm like, okay, let's take a different path. This is just too difficult, or I really do the inner work. And I was going back and forth. I was thinking, oh my God, I really don't want to deal with all the skeletons. Now that I know there are skeletons there in my closet, but the desire to empower women was so great that I came back and I was like, okay, fine, let's do the work. So I think like that, all those questions in the life coaching certification really created that awareness for me. So that is really also related to the first piece of the pillar, surrender. So only when you are aware of your limiting stories, then we can talk about surrendering your stories, because you cannot give up what you don't even know you have. So only by surrendering limiting stories, then you can stop that persistent inner war that you have with yourself, and perhaps with the world as well. So, so in my case, so on the outside, I look very driven. I look very accomplished because I was going for certifications after certifications. I was like always learning something. Yes, later part, I realized one of my signature character strengths was love of learning. But unfortunately, I don't think that was the main reason why I was having this ever learning curve. I was doing it because I didn't feel I was enough. I was always have this hope that this certification will fill up that gap in my heart. and then I'll accomplish, and then for a short while I'll feel very happy. Oh, I did it, and then like, but I can feel it again, and then I'm chasing the next cert and the next certification because there was this gap. I didn't feel I was good enough. I feel like I must really overflow and arm myself with all this certification, and I have no idea because I thought that I was so awesome and so accomplished and so driven. And then later I realized, with that awareness, oh my gosh, I'm doing all this, I'm behaving like that, I'm acting it out in the world because I have this core belief that I am not enough. And with that awareness, then I went on this path on taking massive committed action to smash that story. So when you have awareness, then you can work on the first pillar, which is surrendering your stories. And with that, then you can truly begin the first step into your inner peace journey. So the second pillar is the second S, which is strength. So, the analogy of a phoenix needs to die in order for rebirth to be possible. There is no other way around it. So only when you surrender your limiting stories to allow your old self and your limiting ways of being to die, only then your new life can begin. And with rebirth, now you can work on building up your stronger self and learning what are your inner strengths, what are your character strengths, how to expand your external reservoir of support to raise yourself. So by being your stronger self, so now you are ready to wire in strength-based identity and more empowering beliefs about yourself and about the world. So when you are your stronger self, then you will naturally feel more empowered to do the work to support the outer peace that the world needs, because you have started on your own inner peace first. So that's the second pillar, strength. So for the first two pillar, it is sequential. You have to work on surrendering before you can build on your strength. But the subsequent piece, they kind of go alongside with each other. So the third pillar is H, help. And this is especially a big piece, I think, for women, because we have this thing about seeking help. We like to do everything ourselves, and there's some kind of shame associated with seeking help. That means I'm not good enough. I'm supposed to be able to juggle so many things at the same time and do it all equally well all the time, but that is not true. The sustainable and the wise way to build on your strength is not just to tap on and to work on your inner strengths, but also to tap on the superpowers around you at the same time. To ask for help is not a sign of weakness. In fact, it is a courageous act, and it is an act of self-love. So one defining factor as to why the human race has survived and thrived in the first place is because we are phenomenal collaborators, and we know the power of togetherness. We instinctively understand the compound effect of teamwork. In fact, we are wired that way. Mother Nature is so amazing. Like, we are wired that way so that we know that we must come together to make things possible. So an organic outcome of collaborating and reaching out to help another person, accepting someone else's help, is that collectively we end up with more positive emotions, and we build higher, closer, higher quality connections. And with that upward spiral, peace is inevitable.
Right.
The fourth pillar is H is for hope. So with hope comes optimism, faith, desire, action, momentum, and consistent. Without hope, nothing happens. So Dr. Rick Snyder, which is a pioneer positive psychology researcher, he created the hope theory, which I absolutely love. He says he defines hope as the rainbow of the mind. I personally love this definition because it's just so visually arresting. Like you can't help but already start to have that first seed of hope in your heart when you visualize that rainbow of the mind. So hope is an essential component in the pursuit for change. If we desire to have a peaceful world, then we must firstly wish for the change. And secondly, to have the expectation that it will come to pass. So the more we work on healing and empowering ourselves, then the more hope we will have. The more hope we have in our hearts, the more the notion of a peaceful world will not feel like an unreachable dream. So with that inspirational energy of hope, we will then create that desire for change that will get us into action. So by walking the talk and by taking that hope-filled action first, we will inspire people around us, we will inspire others to do the same in their lives. The fifth pillar is E, elevate. So life is not a sprint, and I myself need to be reminded of that all the time, because one of my signature character strength is zest, so I can be a bit too zesty. Life is not a sprint, neither is the journey towards a peaceful world. Let's get real, right? And a marathoner trains themselves very differently from a sprinter. A marathoner trains themselves for the distance. So they incorporate very specific strategies to make sure they can stay the course. So likewise, we also have to make sure that what we do for our self-healing and empowerment and for peace has to be sustainable. So some questions that we can ask ourselves is, how can I maintain this hope-filled action towards inner peace? And how can I use my strengths in an enduring way instead of, just spurt production and then I get drained out? And how can I make sure that the limiting stories that I have smashed doesn't come back to haunt my peace, but it is really permanently smashed? There is this beautiful quote by a running author called George Sheehan. He says, the music of a marathon is a powerful strain, one of those tunes of glory. It asks us to forsake pleasures, to discipline the body, to find courage, to renew faith, and to become one's own person utterly and completely. I interpret it as being one's best self by doing the necessary inner work for discipline and to elevate ourselves with courage and faith, and to do that with unconditional commitment. So when you elevate yourself, you elevate the world. And peace is about elevating the world. So the last pillar, E, is about execute. So after all that self-discovery, nothing happens if action is not taken, right? What's in the mind is that's not acted out. It doesn't make a difference out there in the world. So action that is not execute to bring to light what has been discovered, um, uh, action that must be ratified. To move the needle, we need to act. And to take that hope-filled action for self-healing and for empowerment, action that is taken for self-care, that is inner peace. And as I've shared in this entire chat, inner peace is world peace. And you want to inspire change by being the change yourself. Inspire peace by being peace yourself, by being peaceful. So that, in a nutshell, is the 6 pillars of the She pathway. So it's the first pillar is surrender. The second pillar is strength. The third pillar is help, seeking help. The fourth pillar is hope, taking hope-filled action. And the fifth pillar is elevate, knowing how to elevate your spirits constantly. The last pillar is execute. Execute the plans you have for self-healing and empowerment. So as you can see, it can easily be called a He pathway. It really doesn't matter. It's basically just a useful framework to inspire you to create your own pathway for change with all the useful concepts that have to be in place in order to do the inner work.
Mm. Wow, you said a whole lot, and I love it all. But to help our audience maybe put some things into practice, what are some actions that they can take to maybe start putting some of the pillars into their life?
So I think first thing first is the first pillar, surrender. You need to start observing yourself. An easy way is, so the mindfulness practice comes in. You need to start observing yourself. I think a good method would be, you want to spot when you are reacting, right? Like at night before you sleep, you want to think through your day. When did you think that you act out of sync, where it was automatic and it was a negative response? Those are clues. Like you might be because you're holding some limiting stories, or there might be past hurts that needs to be addressed. So we all have been hurt by other people. whether it's intentionally or unintentionally. So for some people, the place to start could be forgiveness. And I have to highlight this strongly. Don't think about just forgiveness, forgiving other people. A huge piece is what is it that you need to forgive yourself? I think all of us probably have some things that we need to forgive ourselves for. So where are you reacting in life to things, situation, and people? Could be a harmless remark someone said, and then you just raged, and that's a clue to you what's going on there. So you need to have that curiosity and openness, and to have that awareness of what's going on in your life. So try it, like treat it like a game. Like for this week, every night I'm going to think about what happened today. I'll walk myself through the entire day. At which point was I reacting in a way that's a little bit out of sync? And then you want to start digging. Why was I doing that? What's the story behind it? When in the past did I feel the same way or similar way? Or when in the past did I react the same way? So you want to trace the rabbit hole, and you might be amazed at what you find, because for 30 years, remember, I was on the outside seen as very accomplished. I was seen as very driven, and I'm all of that. However, I was driven from a place of lack, not from a place of self-worth, right? So on the outside, it can look still look good, but you want to have that self-awareness piece. So in the joy method, the first layer is self-awareness. Without self-awareness, we can't do the healing. So the second layer in the joy method is healing. So everything starts with self-awareness, and that's when the learning the skill of mindfulness is very handy. And now there's so much material out there, free resources as well for mindfulness practice. That could be a good starting point as well. If you feel like, oh, I've done this for a few days, nothing comes up, then okay, maybe you are too embedded in your way of being to see anything, right? It's like you wear this lens all your life. It's hard for you to try and look through the lens at something that you're not used to spotting. So then maybe you need to take another step backwards, and maybe you need to start engaging in some kind of mindfulness practice before you come back to the same exercise and try again. And really come with it from a place of openness and curiosity, willing to accept whatever that comes forward. If you have this fear, then obviously like you're not going to see anything, because your subconscious mind will protect you. So I'm saying this from a hypnotherapist's advice. You have to really be prepared for whatever that comes forth, and accept all of it as parts of yourself, and be willing to heal those parts of yourself that's injured. Don't do the exercise from a place of fear. Oh my God, I don't know what I'll discover from this exercise. Then it's like, it's kind of then it's a bit self-defeating to do the exercise. So it's the attitude that you bring in, the mindset is a huge piece. You have to have that openness, and like the way that you would treat a good friend, right? With openness. It doesn't matter what the person say, you are prepared to embrace, and you're prepared to be there for the person. Unconditionality. So it's like unconditional acceptance. So I think that's a really powerful space to start, to have the first layer of deep self-awareness.
Okay. Wow. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I love that. It's the self-awareness. And I think one of the ways to become self-aware is to look at places where you have reoccurring conversations about things, whether it's with a partner or a colleague or a thought that you have. Recurring conversations are often a sign that there's some pattern going on from the past, as opposed to an action from the present.
Yes, and if doing all this work consciously you are still stuck, then I would say, if you're open to it, have some sessions with a hypnotherapist, because the thing is, it could be your critical faculty that is blocking everything and is doing it. It means well, it's doing it, it's things that is protecting you. So when you do hypnotherapy, we are now talking to the subconscious part of your brain, which is like 90% of your brain. And when you do hypnosis, you know, there's relaxation technique. We are trying to bypass your critical faculties so you can speak the truth, so you can reveal the truth to yourself. The reality is, you have all the information about what it takes to heal yourself. You know what are all the stories. but
Yeah.
your conscious mind might be protecting you. So if all that you're doing consciously is not working, then you might want to support your inner discovery with hypnotherapy. So when you relax and when you bypass the critical faculty, then I think what you're looking for might reveal itself when you feel safe. So it's the critical faculty that kind of protect us and keep us vigilant. And also when you are relaxed, you don't trigger the limbic system, you don't trigger the fight or flight, like I can't reveal this part of myself, then it might crush my sense of identity. Identity is a huge piece for human, right? The ego comes in wanting to protect you, but in a hypnotherapy, you bypass the ego, especially if you're relaxed enough, then then you can work you're in your self-healing in a whole brain way. Consciously act on what's necessary, but when needed, assess and tap on all the self information that you have that is kind of stuck in the subconscious mind.
Wow. I know that if I was watching, I would want to know how I can get more of you. So why don't you share with our listeners how they can get in touch with you? And, any last things you have to say? Let's start with that.
Okay, so my website is superpact.asia, superpact.asia, ASIA. And you can contact us at superpactasia@gmail.com. We have so many interviews every week with positive psychology experts, experts in neuroscience, in healing, holistic health. So every week we have at least one interview. This has started since the pandemic lockdown in March. So there is tons of free resources there that I will highly encourage everybody to watch. And my upcoming, and I also writing, I'm finishing up the She Pathway book, which I'm really excited about, and it comes with its own program. Yeah, so I'm like, oh. And so I would really want to end with this quote because I think it so nicely sums up what the She Pathway is about. So this is a quote by Eleanor Roosevelt, and she says, "It isn't enough to talk about peace. One must believe in it, and it isn't enough to believe in it. One must work at it."
So very true. Thank you for that quote. Thank you. Thank you so very much for being here.
Thank you, Mimi.
Sharing with us this pathway to inner peace. I have to tell you that for me, it's very moving to know that there's somebody, 12 hours away from me or 12 hours in line away from me that's working on peace while I'm working on peace over here. And it's, I know when I go to sleep tonight or I wake up tomorrow morning and I'm about to lose hope for the world, I know that joy's going to be on the other side of the world. She Pathway causing peace, and that we're in this together. So thank you for your impact on the planet, on the world, and on people.
Thank you, Mimi, and thank you for being the catalyst to make this possible for all of us to come and share about how we are working towards peace and how we are being the change ourselves. So thank you, Mimi, for also this inspiring first conversation I'm having at 7:55 a.m. in the morning for me. This is just an awesome start to another great day. So such a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much, Mimi.
You're very welcome. Have a fantastic day.
You too.